Hello, friends. Um, so, in my latest blog post, I summarized my reflections on Thanksgiving, um, particularly this Thanksgiving. Actually, no, all Thanksgivings. It's one of my favorite holidays. Um, so, number one, and this may be controversial, but I think it's important to acknowledge that the history of Thanksgiving is not what we learned in school. Um, it has a very dark history, and I'm by no means an expert, but I am reconciling with that. Um, it wasn't the Pilgrims and the Indians having a joyous meal together, right? There's a lot of darkness there. And so, in acknowledging that, I'm trying to learn. I follow the Nipmucks on Instagram. And that's the tribe in which my house resides on their land. Um, and I don't know everything. And I also know that the dark history of America is not my fault personally. And so I believe there is a way to enjoy and celebrate the holiday while also recognizing the dark past. So that's number one. Number two, I've been hosting Thanksgiving for a number of years now, which I absolutely love. I wanted to do it from the moment I moved into my house, which was back in 2006. And since we've been hosting, we've had anywhere from a small gathering to up to 14 people. And I really do love those larger gatherings, as much work as they are. This year, as we've finally come into some sense of normalcy out of COVID, I wasn't sure what to expect. I was preparing for maybe around 10, but for whatever reason, people had other things going on, which was totally fine. And so this year, my gathering ended up being myself, my husband, my parents, and my dog, and it was lovely. And when I had let my mom know that it would just be the four of us, she said, "Are you disappointed?" And I thought about that for a moment, and really the answer is no. I've learned as I've done the work on myself that invitations are not obligations. So if I invite you to something, you are well within your rights to say no. You don't have to give me a reason. You don't have to give me an excuse. You don't have to have something else going on. If you do have something else going on, of course, that's fine. But if you just don't want to come, if you don't desire to come, that's 100% okay. So not disappointed, maybe a little nostalgic, but not disappointed. The other thing I talked about in this post is the food. And I have a whole list of everything that I made. I don't have recipes because I don't really use recipes, though reach out if you're curious about anything on the list. A couple things that I'll highlight. The turkey. If possible, get a fresh turkey from a local farm. You will be blown away by how much better it tastes. Number two, my butternut squash risotto was bomb. I had made this one day after going to the farmer's market. I had this butternut squash and I was like, what am I going to do with this? And I roasted it in the oven at 450, I think for about 30-35 minutes, chopped it up with a little salt, pepper, olive oil, and maple syrup. So good. And then I just made risotto and I mixed it all together. Risotto is not hard, but it does take a lot of patience. So that was an advantage of having a smaller gathering. Would have been really hard to make that for a lot of people. You want to impress people without having to be super fancy. Make herb butter. Like take some herbs, put them in a food processor, mix it with some butter. I recommend Kerrygold, the Irish butter. It's the best butter I've found in the US. And it's amazing. So I had some rosemary in my herb garden, which is still thriving. Rosemary, maple syrup, butter, little bit of oil to get it to mix. So good. And then I am not a baker. Baking's precise. I don't do precise. I don't measure. But I had a lot of apples, and so I made an apple crisp, which I can pretty much do intuitively. I remember my grandmother making it. I did make it gluten-free just because I'm finding I digest better without having a lot of gluten, even though I'm not gluten intolerant. And got some really good non-dairy ice cream to go on top because I am lactose intolerant. So that's it. And all in all, it was a wonderful day. I'd love to know how your Thanksgiving was, any of your traditions, and also anything you've learned about the native land in which you reside. For more practices, go to jenjortnercassidy.com, follow, and I'll see you next time.